I think you can see my screen, right?
Yes, that's right.
Perfect. Okay. Hello, everyone. Thanks for being here. And I would like to welcome you. And to be more precise, I would like to welcome you to a new era. So, everything is changing, and we have seen a lot of changes in the field of ELT and in the field of education. And I think that we, as teachers and as educators, we need to respond to a changing world. Now, our students need us more than ever, and we definitely need to respond to everything that is changing, and we need to find new ways to implement in our teaching. So, what I'm trying to say is that now is the time that we need STEAM more than ever, and I'm going to explain. So let's start with the basics. What is STEAM? To start with, STEAM stands for science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics. But as we're going to see in a while, everything is different than we can imagine. So, for example, we may say science, but we don't mean just scientific experiments or just physics or just chemistry. We also mean predictions, we mean observations, we mean results. And we always mean the whole procedure behind science. The same stands for technology, and this is the most let's say misunderstood word, because when we think of technology, we usually think of computers and tech and gadgets and all of these things. But the truth is that when we say technology in the field of education and in the field of STEAM, we mean observations again, and mazes, and coding games, coding activities, and things like that. And then we have engineering, and of course, we don't mean simple structures and simple buildings, and we are going to see exactly what we mean. And then we have art and mathematics. But the truth is that the whole magic of STEAM is that we can implement all the elements together to create a STEAM-based lesson. Now, STEAM-based learning is also based on other approaches and methods, as for example, it is based on the communicative approach, inquiry-based learning, and CLIL. Now, I would like to talk about them just for a while. When we say communicative approach, we need our students to collaborate together, to communicate, to have their outcomes together. And this is how we have created our lessons based on the communicative approach, but also on experiential learning and holistic approaches. And then we have inquiry-based learning. And when we say inquiry-based learning with simple words, we mean encouraging our students ask a lot of questions and trying to problem solve and find solutions to their problems. Maybe sometimes we refer to everyday problems, but here when we say STEAM, we refer to problems that they have to solve during our STEAM-based lessons. And of course, CLIL, which is a very famous method over the past few years. And I think that the reason why CLIL is very famous nowadays is because it is based on experiential learning, and it is based on learning through real knowledge, through real life situations, and learning about the world. And actually, this is how we use STEAM as well as CLIL. Now, STEAM can be implemented either in short-term projects or in long-term projects, and that depends on our students' needs, on our needs, and on our syllabi. So, for example, if we have to teach young learners, we use STEAM in a way that we use short-term projects, to teach them vocabulary and some simple syntax and grammar and all of these things. While when we refer to higher level students, then we need to have long-term projects so as to help them understand other definitions and other things, again, referring to our language as well. Now, let's start with science, and I'm going to analyze everything. And if you have any questions, please send them in the chat box, and we are going to answer them at the end of this presentation. We always need to have some steps to follow in our lessons to help us guide us through the process, and of course to help our students create their autonomy and their independency throughout the lessons. We always start with a question, and this is why STEAM-based learning is always based on inquiry-based learning as well, because the question part is always the most important part of all. So, for example, here we can see an experiment, and that experiment was about gravity. But as you can see here, our students are very young, so we have changed our lesson depending on their needs and what they have to learn. So we start with a question and we analyze the question. And then we need to search for our background information, what we need to answer this question. And of course, we also need to find our supplies, our materials, and what we need to answer again our questions and experiment for the process. Then we have our hypothesis and the prediction. So basically, our students need to predict and hypothesize what is going to happen. An example here is that you can ask your students either to predict what they're going to create based on their supplies, or you can ask them to predict their next steps, what they need to do next in order to answer the initial question. And then, of course, we have our experiment, but we always need to remember that during our experiment, our students need to observe what is happening, to keep notes on what is happening, and then to analyze what happened before. So then we have to draw our conclusions and, of course, go back to our initial question. To make everything clearer, let's see here. So we start with our question. We ask more questions to find a possible answer. The truth is that we cannot always find a precise answer to our question because this is the true meaning behind inquiry-based learning. We search for our supplies, and our supplies can also be our learning outcomes sometimes, referring to our vocabulary and grammar and all of the and lexes maybe and all of these things. We predict, we experiment, we analyze, and we conclude, as we said before. And I have included some examples here, and you can also keep some notes because these examples can be used to your future lessons. Science lessons can be implemented in all levels, from kindergarteners, so preschoolers, toddlers, to C2, by changing the level of difficulty and the learning outcomes. So here are some examples. For example, we have an experiment here, as you can see in the picture, and something that I forgot to mention is that I have used pictures from our lessons. So everything you can see here is from our classes and from our STEAM lessons. So from kindergarten to pre-A1, you can use an experiment simply to help your learners understand some basic vocabulary words. And then we have A1, and we can use STEAM to I'm sorry, we can use this experiment to teach them uncountable nouns plus vocabulary. And then A2, gravity and sequence, B1, the sense of gravity and consistency. And then we have higher levels, B2, B2 plus, consistency of supplies, the reason behind it, further experiments for consolidation. Now, the truth is that when we have an experiment, for example, here we have a science experiment, we always need to have some, let's say, backup experiments, some further things to do, further STEAM activities to do, to consolidate better and to have more things to do in our lesson, if of course this is one lesson. Otherwise, it's not one activity, but we refer to a long-term project. So then we have technology, and as I said before, not smartphones, computers, and IT. Technology also refers to mazes, board games, and coding, but the main use of technology is that it refers to the use of an item as a tool. So what can we create? What tool can we create in order to help us with something else? For example, you can see here one of our students who has created this with just a simple piece of rope. And the question was, we need to create bubbles. What can we make to create bubbles? But as you realize, he's a very young learner. You can change everything and you can implement STEAM in all levels based on your students' needs. So just keep that in mind, that we use technology and we ask questions on how to create an item as a tool in order to create something else. This is the main point of technology. And of course, our steps, and you're going to see that we have steps in all STEAM elements. And here we have differentiate the steps a little bit. So we start again with a question or a purpose. Or I could say that maybe sometimes we also have a tech goal, our goal. And then we gather our supplies on based on what we have to create. And then we plan. And basically we design, I would say, rather than planning, we design. This is our plan. And then we test and create. Actually, we create and then we test. This is something extremely important as well, because we can also find a lot of things on the internet nowadays, and there are also a lot of STEAM activities that you can do with your learners, but these activities cannot be successful if you don't follow the steps and the whole procedure behind every one of the activities. An activity can be just an activity without the procedure. And of course, the most important thing is that our students need to understand that after they have created their tool, their creation, they also need to test it out to see if it is successful. And also, because in STEAM-based learning, group work is essential, what we always do is to ask our students give feedback to the other group, and group A gives feedback to group B and group B to group A, for example, because we need to encourage collaboration, and we also need to encourage presentation skills, and also we need to help our students give feedback to their classmates and later to someone else. and it is either positive or negative feedback depending on the project and depending on what they have created. So here are some examples again. Technology lessons encourage critical thinking, collaboration, creativity, curiosity, problem solving, and communication skills. And of course, as I mentioned before, presentation skills as well, because we always need to ask our students present their work. And in this way, we can understand and realize their learning outcomes. And if they are able to introduce and communicate their thoughts on what they have created. So from kindergarten to pre A1, you can see here in the pictures, these are mazes, and they have created the mazes with Play-Doh, or you can do three-dimensional with clay. And their goal here, actually a game that we did afterwards, was to they closed their eyes, they had their eyes closed, and they had to find the end of the maze without actually looking, just by their sense of touch. So yeah, for kindergarten to pre A1, you can use a simple STEAM activity like this one to help them understand the directions and help them learn new vocabulary. For A1 levels, you can create a board game. And again, the learning outcomes could be vocabulary, could be grammar, for example, present continuous, a simple example. And then A2, creation of a tool with material, and B1 plus, creation and analysis of tools and gadgets. Now, the truth is that I have included here some very simple examples, but the thing is that we use STEAM-based learning because we need to encourage 21st century skills, and the most important part is communication. And we also need to help our students use the language under real life situations, and they need to understand everything by doing. And this is why STEAM has, this magic in it, because they need to do everything in order to understand everything. And of course, they always gain new knowledge based on facts, based on information, based on things that matter to them, and based on what they want to learn and discover throughout our lessons. And this is the most important part of all. So then we have engineering, and engineering is always implemented in our lessons, but there are always other elements combined in the section of engineering. And the truth is that mathematics is always a section that it is combined in the section of engineering. So again, we start with our question, or here we have another possible starting point, which is our prediction stage. So for example, let's say that we need to create a bridge, not like this one, but this is also a bridge, because for this I'm sorry, this level of students, that was the appropriate, I would say, bridge for them to build. So then again, we search for our supplies, and the truth is that this is the most difficult part in the section of engineering, because our students have to think of a lot of things before moving on to the creation and to the building plan. They search for their supplies, they create and design and sketch their building plan, and then they move on to the creation process. I'm sorry. So here are some pictures from our very young learners again, and I would like you to think actually, what other elements do you think that are combined in this engineering challenge? And I would like you to send me your thoughts in the chat box below. So think, is it science? Is it technology? Is it arts? Mathematics maybe? What do you think? Send me your thoughts. Anyone? It's not very difficult, to be honest. Yeah, except from engineering. All of them, arts. Yeah, so here again, I'm trying, actually, I tried to include my simpler activities that we have done with my students. And here they had to create an oven. And as you said, all of the other STEAM elements are combined to create this oven. So yes, it is an engineering challenge, but of course, technology it is included, arts is included, mathematics as well, and this is the most important thing when it comes to STEAM. We always combine all of the elements together to create a challenge. Of course, we always name a challenge under something, under, for example, this is an engineering challenge, but the truth is that we always have more elements combined in the challenge. Now, some examples. For example, pre-A1, as we saw before, create an oven, create a village, build a house. And you can use these challenges either to teach them vocabulary or grammar features or anything that you need, depending on your students' needs. And then we have A1 to A1 plus, as for example build a spaceship or create different means of transport. And this is something, this is an amazing challenge actually, because they need to create different means of transport by using simple materials that you can find in your schools, such as recycling materials and things like that. For example, create a car, create a boat, and create a plane. Can they move? Which one goes faster? And this is the point where I was talking about it before, in which they have to create something, but then they have to reflect on what they have created. And this is why the process is and the procedure is very important, because we can have a simple challenge, but everything is based on the steps that we follow. And this is that's how we can create a successful STEAM based lesson. Or in higher levels, building towers, understanding the sense of gravity, or constructing and calculating. So here, another example, and this is one of my most favorite pictures. This is a little girl, and the most creative, the most effective way to help our students think creatively and without a box is the section of arts. And I love the section of arts, to be honest. I think that you can see that. Now, I would like you to tell me, what can you see in the picture? it is a girl. She's observing something. So I would like you to tell me your feelings, your thoughts. What can you see? Any thoughts that you have? And again, send me your thoughts in the chat box if you want. Shapes. What do you think? What else? Any other ideas? Sky. House. Starry night. Yes. Actually, um, this is what our students created, actually recreated, because this is a recreation from The Starry Night by Van Gogh. And they created this painting on their own by looking at the original painting, and that was their final result. And here we took this picture after their creation, and the girl is standing in front of the painting, and she's observing the painting, and she's trying to understand her feelings and how she feels when she looks at the painting. So it was a recreation of the painting, but the truth is that this STEAM lesson was beyond that. And of course, before looking at these things, I would like to tell you that when we say arts, we don't mean just painting and drawing. There are a lot of things that you can discover in the section of arts, as for example, photography, videography, drama, theater, um, or architecture, design, or even graphic design. And I think that graphic design is a trend nowadays. And the truth is that I have used graphic design a lot of times in my lessons, and it is very helpful for our students to dive into the world of, designing in on our computers and creating things that they haven't done before. So again, how can we use this section to promote language learning? We start with our inspiration, and we can use either famous paintings or just paintings that we have found somewhere and we like them, or we can use some films that we have seen, we have watched, or anything. And we can use anything that has inspired us. We can use it to inspire our students. And then we need to find our supplies that we are going to need for our creation. And when I say supplies, we also need to understand the method of the artist. So, for example, we have to analyze a painting by Van Gogh. We need to find his method on that painting. We need to analyze his method, and then we need to find more information before diving into the creation part. And of course, we always need to draft and to design, and again to observe the method of the artist, and not only the artist when we say drawing and painting, but again in the film section, in the drama section, in the music section as well. And then we move on to the creation part, and at the end we always present what we have created. And I'm going to say that again, don't forget to ask your students present, because this is the only way that we as teachers can understand their learning outcomes and also their needs and their questions, because throughout during the process that we follow, they always have questions, but when they see and when they observe the other group presenting, they always come up with new questions, and new questions are always a good chance to help you create new lessons and further lessons, or even further STEAM activities for consolidation and things like that. So, arts again. So, some examples here from pre-A1 to A1 examples. For example, Bedroom in Oils by Van Gogh. Students recreate the painting by choosing the colors on their own to consolidate furniture. This is a very simple example that you can use to help your students understand new vocabulary and new lexes and new words or grammar or anything. Writing poems or songs. For example, ask your students to share their favorite topic, for example, sports. Ask them to collaborate and create a poem or a song on their chosen topic and help them with rhyme when it is necessary. And this is something that I also need to mention. The role of the teacher when we have STEAM-based lessons is not, is not the typical, let's say, role of the teacher. Actually, the role of our role is to be there, to monitor, to guide them through the process, but in a helping stage, in a helping situation where we don't involve too much and we encourage our students to be independent, to collaborate with each other, and to be autonomous. And these are some of the most important roles when we have STEAM-based learning to create autonomy and independency. So please, if you are going to use STEAM-based lessons, STEAM-based learning in your lessons, try to guide them, try to help them, but not too much, because we need to encourage their collaboration, their critical thinking, their problem solving skills, and their communication skills as well. Or another example is that you can ask your students to create a pop-up book, which is an amazing activity. And students create a story, and they also make a pop-up book with 3D characters. And you can also find how to create a 3D book. I think it is easy to find if you type DIY 3D book, 3D pop-up book or something like that. But again, I'm going to say it again for one more time. Don't forget to follow the steps when you have STEAM-based lessons, because the steps are those who that can make the difference in the STEAM-based learning. So here we move on to A1 and A2 examples. And this is a true story and a very interesting story. We searched NASA's social media, and that was last year in our summer camp, and we found the image that you can see here. So this is the painting our students created, but the image was really very similar. So we looked for information about what that was. We analyzed the picture that they had uploaded, and we created a piece of art based on the picture. And this is the result. So you can ask your students. Also, something to mention was that we then sent an email to NASA's official account, and they responded to our students' artwork, and they said that they truly liked it. And of course, our students were thrilled and more than happy to receive feedback from the official account from NASA. So you can ask your students, find famous paintings. You can ask them to describe their feelings when they observe the painting. And this is something that can help your students understand how they feel when they observe it, and it can help them understand their thoughts, and it also can help them to communicate their thoughts and feelings. So ask them to work in groups and create a painting on their own by getting inspired from the original painting or by using weird material. And this is something that used to be a trend in the past few years, because a lot of famous artists used to use weird material like coffee or recycling material, and they used these materials and they um, could create something spectacular, something extraordinary, and the final result was amazing. So this is something that you can also use to create arts lesson, or you can also use a part of a theatrical play that you liked and ask your students to dramatize and play it. And this is something very simple and something easy to do. Now let's move on to B1, B2, higher levels here. An example could be Arts Day, throwback in history and choices. You can ask your students to create, or you can create an art gallery with pieces of art with a timeline, and you can ask your students to do research on the paintings. Then you can ask your students to do some research on furniture and find the history of design. And then you can ask them to find modern furniture and get inspired by their design and create their own by using clay or Play-Doh plasticine. Or and another idea, storytelling or creative writing. And you can ask your students to be inspired by a painting and create a story behind it, or write a song which can be accompanied by the painting. And this is a very helpful idea to help your students communicate their feelings and their thoughts. So the last element of STEAM is mathematics. And the truth is that most of the times the section of mathematics is being implemented into the other sections, as for example in the section of engineering. And when we use the section of mathematics on its own, we use it as geometry, or by using the symmetry of objects, or by calculating the parts of an item. The mathematics is very important to the engineering procedure and to the engineering steps, because we always need to calculate and to create exact the same shapes when we have to build something afterwards. Or we can also have mathematics in the section of arts. So there are too many examples that we can discuss here, but can you find mathematics in these two examples? So how did we use mathematics in this painting, for example? Can you guess? Can you share your thoughts? Sure. Shapes? Yes. Shapes for sure. Geometry, triangles, angles, designing. Yeah. Uh, as Dalia said, designing, and we always need mathematics in the designing process as well. both in engineering and in the technology elements of STEAM. And of course, I love this comment. I think the painting wouldn't have been created without calculation and shapes, and this is exactly true. And of course, in this house, we had to create exactly the same measurements, and everything should be precise in order to create this house. And of course, that was the draft. We continued the procedure afterwards. And what about the material and what we need to use in order to create a successful STEAM-based uh, learning lesson? So what we have been using, first of all, we have our agendas. Our agendas are something like notebooks, let's say, and we have before, during, and after the challenge stages. So as we said before, we start, for example, with our prediction stage or with our supplies, and then we have our observation stage, and then we have our results. And while we are creating something, if it is just in one lesson, our students always write down their thoughts and keep notes. Of course, we can have a booklet or worksheets for consolidation. So, for example, if you have a science lesson and you need to talk about gravity, you also need to have an informative text about gravity, or you can ask your students to search about gravity. But the truth is that if you need to have some more controlled steps and more control for your procedure, you need to have included some informative texts, which then you can discuss with your students, and you can find more information about on these items and theories. And what we also use is our diaries, and we have our diaries for homework, to assign them work for home. So basically, in their diaries, they have to write down their thoughts on the experiment or any STEAM activity that we did on our lesson. They need to draw their conclusions, or even they can draw their favorite moment from our lesson. So diaries are a tool in order to keep our students engaged in the process, and of course remember what we did the previous time and what we are going to continue in the next. So some words for our STEAM network. It is a supportive network for teachers who want to implement STEAM in their lessons. And we have created a STEAM network because we truly believe that teachers need support and help, and a network can make the difference when it comes to resources and materials and helping each other. So we also have some training seminars, teacher training seminars and workshops for all levels. And I have included some pictures from our seminars and trainings and from our education in Adiparos. And yes, so that was it. You can find my social media accounts here in these uh, pictures. And please, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask us, or here now in the chat box below, or even after the seminar. Any questions?
Yeah, that was great, Connie. Yeah, it was a great presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You're most welcome. So, guys, we're looking at the chat box at the moment. If you have any questions, if you have any comments, actually, Connie, during the presentation, people were, typing really positive comments. So someone
I'm so
said,
glad.
"That's awesome." Yeah, Very good presentation. Some of the comments were sent to me privately. Yeah, someone said
Thank you
great
so much.
presentation, very well documented and argumented, formative, enriching, and inspirational, comprehensible, structured, and intelligent presented. Heartiest
Oh, thank you so
congratulations and thank
much.
you very much. That's a very nice comment. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, we're still waiting for questions. Yeah, fruitful session. Thanks a bunch. The link, yes, it's the same one. It's the same one.